Damn it, I didn't have any of that recording. That would have been a good cold open.
No,
Oh,
that was pretty good.
it was, yeah.
It would just be, wouldn't feel authentic if I just made the same joke again. Certainly.
Yeah. Well, them's the breaks. Sometimes you win some, and sometimes you forget to press record, and someone else says something really funny, and you're like, "Aw, shucks."
Oh shit! There was a racially charged joke in there that the audience will never hear now.
What a travesty.
Lazor Comb.
Welcome, Evilites. I
And
didn't really think.
Deadites.
And Deadites. I didn't really think that one through, but whatever. We're rolling with it. Welcome to episode 98 of the Lazor Comb podcast, the show where we comb through random episodes of classic TV with a fine-tooth laser. I am, as always, Siege Mode, one of your hosts.
And I'm NeoCal Mode, your other host.
So, it's Shocktober for people who aren't aware.
Crusader Cal, if you will.
Crusader Cal. There you go. That sounds like it could have been that sounds like it could have been a like in like a Jingle All the Way sequel, like the fake toy, like the fake toy that like
yeah.
that like not Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like someone like even more like someone more C tier, like I don't know, like Daniel Stern or something is like the dad in like Jingle All the Way 4, and he's trying to
pretty
get
good.
he's trying to get Crusader Cal for his son.
Oh my god. My kid's just obsessed with Crusader Cal.
It's
Destiny
Crusading.
infidels.
It's Crusading time.
It doesn't matter who you're crusading against, as long as it's someone of an opposite faith.
Yep, that's how
It's
history
not
works.
Moida. It's not Moida if the other person calls God something different than what you call God.
So it's Shocktober, and we're on a little like mini programming block here on the Lazor Comb podcast, where we're going to focus on like some supernatural stuff. Cal's in his Halloween garb as Crusader Cal from Jingle All the Way Part 4.
Jingle All
It's-
the Way, Part 4.
It's jingling time.
Jingle All the Way, Part 4. Jingle Jangle.
Jingle jangle, there we go. And my costume has not arrived from Amazon yet, unfortunately, so I'm just sports fan. I'm wearing
Canadian sports fan.
wearing a hockey jersey from Shoresy, and I'm wearing a BC Lions toque.
That doesn't get any more Canadian sports fan.
Not really, no. And for me, being a guy who's really not much of a sports person, I actually, like, me dressing up as sportsman was actually pretty easy. I have, like, more, like, sports merch than you would think.
You have exactly as much sports merch as I would think.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I guess we'll go with that then. This week on the Lazor Comb podcast, we are covering the first episode because that's what we rolled on. That's what we landed on in the old random number generator. Was the first episode of the Paramount Plus series, Evil.
Do you think science can answer every question?
I'm a forensic psychologist, but I don't need to check every broomstick to know that broomsticks don't fly. So this is a haunting?
It's an infestation.
What's that?
A haunting.
You know I'm just doing this to pay off my student loans, right?
Evil, coming to CBS this fall.
I should
the
add
Evil
it.
song.
Yeah, I should add in some like lightning effects and like wolves like howling.
Yeah, see, you knew exactly what I was going for. That song is always accompanied by lightning strikes and or wolves howling.
And here are those sound effects right here. That's I'll add those in post. You can be sure, or maybe I won't. We'll see.
We'll never know.
No,
I won't.
You listening to this podcast? Yeah, you. I'm talking to you, Brent.
You'll know.
You'll know.
Well, way to call out Brent. There's a Brent listener right now. He's like, "Whoa, what the fuck?"
I listened to a podcast years ago, and I can't even remember what show it was, but they actually they're like, yeah, they did a similar thing, and they're like, yeah, we're talking to you, Chris. And I was like, huh, that's funny.
How dare?
Yeah, how dare you guys call me Chris?
You got to go with the common white guy name. I'll never hear Cal, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like Brandon, Chris. Could even get away with a Jordan, but
James,
Brad, yeah, James,
Steve.
Oh, Steve, you can get away with, yeah. But
I'm saying is, we're talking about you, Steve. Yeah, that's right. You know who you are.
But like Chadwick, not gonna happen.
Or Reginald.
No Reggies, no. Corey, no, not quite. 90s, Corey was out there. I knew so many Corys, but I feel like that's a Gen X or an Xlennial. Like I don't really know any Corys our age, just like 5 to 10 years older than us.
Yeah. I knew a lot of Corys when I was younger, and yeah, they were like when I was like in my early 20s, they were in their late 20s. Yeah,
it's like a late Gen X or young Gen X name for sure. So many of I swear, like half of my mom's friends were named Corey.
Male and female.
Yeah.
It's one of those names.
Yeah.
Have you ever met a dude named Ashley? Because I sure as hell haven't.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, and a guy named Shalimar and a guy named Shannon.
I've met a guy named Shannon before.
Oh, okay. And a guy named Kelly.
I've known a guy named Kelly before too.
I've
met many dudes and many chicks named Robin.
Oh, yeah. I only met one. Huh.
I think Robin was another big like Gen Xer name because they were always people who were like 10 years older than me.
That feels like that feels like a Gen X name.
Yeah. I mean, I've met some Robins who are like our age, but most of them have been like 10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only Robin I know is younger. I wonder how many Khaleesi's are out there. Because they could go with Cal for short.
Well, we'll find out.
And they better, because they'll probably be embarrassed. We'll find out in like 10, 15 years when they start hitting the internet.
They'll go by Cal or like probably like Lise or like Lisa.
Oh.
Or Lizzie. Yeah. Lisi,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out in about 10 years when they enter the job market.
Yeah. Or maybe Khal. Khal.
And let me tell you, I can't wait.
I wonder if that's mostly an American thing.
Yeah, I can't. I can't wait because like the first thing I'm gonna ask is like, so what did your mom think about the last season of Game of Thrones?
You're so mean, so terrible.
The character that was like hero worshipped by every chick I knew around that time, who were just all like blindsided by the very obvious, like right from the beginning to me anyway, character development of that. I'm sure that particular. We have talked about this before.
Talked about it, but maybe off air.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a good and telling buildup In the very least, if not for fuck, what was her actual name? Whatever. Blonde Khaleesi lady. Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains. I feel
Bearer
like
of Bottom. At least in that first episode.
Oh, right. I feel like she, her family history, it's like, what is it? You flip a coin and a Targaryen might have twins. You flip another coin and that's to see if the mother lives or not. And you flip another coin to see if the kids are going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Like that was like all their family is like madness. Mom's dying giving birth. And
I think it was in season 2 or season 3, I can't remember, where I like figured out
I'm having twins.
I'm like, oh yeah, she's gonna turn evil by the end of this series. Like she's gonna break bad, like totally.
Yeah, so one of the early seasons.
Yeah, it was season 2 or 3 where I was like, oh yeah, I see where they're going with this. Cool. And it was,
can't be loved, damn it, be feared.
Yeah, and it was a very slow build, like all the way up to the last season.
Well, up until they were like, who wanted to hire them? Why did the brothers like be like, oh shit, and like cash out their Game of Thrones chips and go to make movies?
They were hired to make like a trilogy of like Star Wars movies that never ended up happening.
Right, yeah. And they were like, oh fuck this, we're gonna go make Star Wars money.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, can you hand it off to somebody that'll like do it justice? No, don't worry, we'll wrap it up. We'll do a good job. We'll subvert expectations. And I was like, well, I mean, you did, because like people loved the thing you made up until you made it shit. So congrats, I guess.
I was fine with that last season, other than it feeling very truncated. Like it was very much a rush. I mean. It was very much a rush.
Last two seasons were let's wrap this up and get that sweet money. Like it was just like lazy. They're like, I don't know, Jamie and Cersei, bury them in some bricks. Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
I understand what they were going for on paper. Like, not every death is like heroic or meaningful. Sometimes you get buried in rubble. Like I understand that concept, but like there's a lot of problems with the last two seasons.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about the last two seasons of Game of Thrones.
No, we're talking about the first two seasons of Game of Thrones.
We're talking about the first two seasons of Game of Thrones. We got Eddard Stark. We got Robb Stark. We got Boobas. We got Wieners.
We got Sean Bean Stark.
Yeah, and as soon as I saw him, I'm like, he's going to die. There's nothing he likes doing more in TV shows and movies than dying.
I know, and for the longest time, too, I was like, one thing Sean Bean didn't die in? Silent Hill. What happened in the in that shitty second Silent Hill movie? Sean Bean died. They took that away from me, goddammit.
That's right. It's so bad.
The second
who
one's
else is in
terrible.
that second terrible Silent Hill movie?
Oh,
Jon Snow.
Jon Snow, right, yeah.
He's got a name. Kit Harington? Is that his?
That sounds right, yeah.
That sounds right.
And Khaleesi...
I'm terrible because so many people are named can like name drop like everyone. They know company names and they know like actor names and artist names, and I'm like,
I'm generally pretty good with that kind of thing.
I'm not. Yeah, Kit Harington. Look at me.
And Khaleesi is Emilia Clarke. Still can't remember the character's name, but remember the actress's name.
Khaleesi. Daenerys.
Yeah, okay. You know what? We could have pondered this for an hour, and I don't think I would have been able to pull that, honestly. It's just it's gone.
If I tried, I could have. But yeah, it was just kind of like fucking poofed out of my head.
No,
they all had names like that are a little bit like a real name, and then like, weep. It's just like, oh, we can't name him Jeffrey. He's Joffrey. We can't name him Thomas. He's Tomlin.
My name is Joffrey. Watch me choff away.
Joffrey. And what a Joffrey. We can't name him Edward. His name's Eddard. But don't worry, people can call him Eddie. Uh, but John, just Jon, no H, no silent.
I do kind of wonder if maybe some of these like names are rooted in like original like Old English version of these names, maybe.
Oh,
like maybe Edward was Eddard, and like, you know,
I know that's a real name somewhere, right?
like 7th century England or something. Maybe Edward was Eddard. I don't know. Just speculating.
I like that naming, like concept, because like I steal that when I run my tabletop RPGs. I'll be like, oh, this isn't Janice, it's Janwin. It's Lady Janwin of the Crystal, Christeth Court. Lady Janwin of the Christeth Court.
I know it gives it like a like an old timey like kind of regal quality to it.
His name's not Jordan, it's Jadwin the Black. His name's not Cal Smith. His name is Cal Drogo Drogo. And his name's not Dragon, it's Dragoth. Wasn't one of the dragons' names just Dragoth or something like that? Anyways, evil folks.
Call the Conqueror.
If you've watched this far, contrary to popular belief based on our past, it's not because there's not enough to talk about in this episode. It's because we got sidetracked by Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so this week on the Lazor Comb podcast, we are reviewing the first episode of, as I mentioned, the Paramount Plus series, Evil, in honor of Shocktober. Going to be doing a couple of supernatural themed shows. Next week, we're following it up with, well, you'll just have to wait and find out.
Ooh, at the end of the episode, we'll reveal our spooky TV show for next week.
It may involve some rising from the grave.
It may involve some descending from the rafters.
Appropriate.
But yeah, here's a show I didn't know existed until a listener mentioned it, and I was like, oh, is it done? Siege looked it up and he's like, oh yeah, it just finished.
Yep.
Paramount Plus, and I got a free week of Paramount Plus just to watch this show.
Oh.
And not to tip my hat.
I'm pretty sure I sent you my login info for Paramount Plus too.
Oh shit, you did.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps I will use that so I can continue watching it, because I have watched the first 6 episodes.
I have watched the first 3. So I think we can already. You know what, Cal? You just caught a random episode of Evil. Are you tuning in next time?
I give it 3 dragons out of 3. Yeah, I am tuning in next week, and I already have 6 times.
So have I. 3 times.
But yeah,
the show's fun.
Do we want to sell the first? Do we want to sell the gist of the first episode?
Yeah, totally. So the first episode, we are introduced to Science Lady. Kristen, yeah.
So the Holy Trinity, Science Lady, Holy Man, and Skeptic Man.
Science Lady, Holy Man, and Skeptic Man.
Sir Skeptic, yeah.
So we're introduced to Kristen, Science Lady. I would describe her character as kind of a mix between Clarice Starling from Silence of the Lambs and Gillian Anderson from X-Files.
But warmer than that.
A little bit warmer, yeah.
She's married, and much to my surprise, has 4 girls, has 4 kids.
Yeah.
So like often with these like strong like women protagonists, they're married to their job and they make a lot of like money and they don't have time for kids. It's kind of refreshing to have a woman, a protagonist that like does have kids
and is seemingly a really good mom.
and from what I can tell, like, got to pay the fucking rent. But other than trusting her mom with a little too much fucking, keep watching. You might have opinions on the grandma. By the way, kind of a G-MILF. I'm just putting it out there. Christine Lottie plays the grandma, Cheryl.
The hottest person in this show.
The thing is, when I was a teenager and I liked MILFs, that makes sense. So it makes sense that as I'm approaching 40, I like G-MILFs.
Fair enough. The hottest person in this show, definitely, and I can't imagine many people disagreeing with this, is Mike Coulter. Luke Cage himself. That is a very attractive and charming man.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of great to see him play a down-to-earth. You would choose him instead of the bear to be lost in the woods with. Is what I'm saying. It's good to see. And you know what? I don't like a lot of TV shows where like the intellectuals are at odds with each other. They could have very easily been like, I believe in science. Well, I believe in God. And ne'er the two shall ever mix. Like it could have been a show like that. And thank fucking God it's not.
No, and the skeptics in this show are still open-minded. Like they're still intrigued by the mystery, but they're smart enough.
Because they want to figure it out. Yeah.
But they're smart enough that they figure it out.
Devout, angry atheists.
Yeah.
Like that don't like Mike Coulter plays David Acosta. They don't like shit on David for being a true believer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like nice because we're of the generation where there's pullback from that.
Well, and Kristen would very much like to do other things to Mike Coulter. let's be honest. And it's right in the show.
It is in the show. Can we blame her?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Like when David Acosta like comes to her and like tries to offers her a job to recruit her to help him investigate. I'm like, no one would turn this man down.
You can't do it even if you're heterosexual, man. He's just so goddamn charming. The way he like sits on like a desk or against the wall and like he's non-offensive. That's the new basically what was it? What was that everybody says is like the ideal like masculine, like you can be feminist and masculine. Is it George of the Jungle? Yeah, there's like a live action George of the Jungle with
Brendan Fraser.
Thank you. There's tons of memes on the internet about like how he's like gentle with people. He listens, right?
Yeah.
He like believes everything, but he's still like strong and like offers to like help and everything. There are these memes everywhere about George of the Jungle from the last few years, and I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Where did these come from?
I know the internet is very fond of that movie. Yeah.
Right? I didn't know that. I just found the memes.
Yeah. And I remember seeing the movie when I was like, I don't know, like 12 or 13 and being like, okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know who I kind of felt meh about in the first episode of Evil? The alibi of the killer dude. So the gist of this, I'm going to make this as simple as possible without it being like a CSI, like, oh, but this, oh, but then this, oh, but then this twist. It is a, what's the, Siege knows the term. It is almost a procedural crime drama.
It is. It follows the
you think
procedural formula. Yeah, totally.
Okay, yeah. But that's not to take away from the show. So, dude killed a bunch of people, right? Killed a whole family, like fucking kids and a baby, or like, and the parents, right?
Yeah.
But he blacked out during it. Ooh. So David.
And the defense, and so Kristen is working for the prosecution as And yeah, let's just get into it. So Kristen is working working for the prosecution as like a forensic psychologist, and she's been questioning this guy who's on trial for murder. And like it's a clear-cut open and shut case, like he did it, but his thing is he says he doesn't remember, and she has been examining him to determine his like level of sanity, basically. And in her opinion, like he is perfectly sane and fit to stand trial. The defense throws a wrench into this by saying demonic possession right away, like in the beginning of the episode. And I'm like, I do like this show, but I was surprised that this court was more than willing to just entertain the idea of demonic possession as a defense.
Never heard that as a... Today I learned. It's like, sir, my client is innocent because the devil was in him. I might just be a small town lawyer from Kentucky, but my client clearly had the devil inside him. But I didn't know that was a defense. And this is where we meet Cage himself. He's not a pastor yet. He's not a priest yet. But what he does is he saves the church a lot of time and money he's an assessor, if you will. And he goes to different cases to assess if priests are necessary.
Because he gives this like astronomical number. What is it? He says like there are over 500,000 like reported cases of possession to the church worldwide per year. And
but obviously there aren't 500,000 possessions a year. And as we find out later, there's an exact number of demons, exact number of you devils.
Yeah.
Special number 60. So clearly there can't be 500,000 people being possessed every year.
Let me ask you this. What is 60 plus 606?
766. Did I carry too many ones? Did I forget to?
You added 100 to that.
I know. What is 666?
That's the devil!
Man, you gotta count to 666 to summon the devil. Like
I thought you just had to say Beetlejuice 3 times.
No, that's to summon your VHS copy of Beetlejuice starring Winona Ryder.
Right. Starring Winona Ryder.
Just Winona Ryder.
Yeah. No one else.
No other name of note.
No.
And I guess there's one other person in the movie.
No Alec Baldwin. No Gina Davis.
Yeah. Maybe those two, but no one else. That's it. Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin,
which is one of the biggest problems of the second Beetlejuice movie, which I really don't like, honestly.
Oh,
is the lack of Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin. Anyway.
Yeah, so
handful of people are already unsubscribing because I just poo-pooed Beetlejuice.
How dare you? I haven't seen it yet. But it's Spooktober, so maybe I will.
I'm going to go see Venom: The Last Dance this weekend.
I haven't seen any Venoms. I will possibly one day, like when I'm like sick and I'm like sitting on Netflix or something. I'll probably be like, sure. That's when I watched episode 8 of the Star Wars. And I was like, oh. Yeah, I was like sick at home and I was like, okay, sure. It's free.
The Venom movies are good background movies. Much like this show, and I don't mean this as a criticism, this is a very good show to have on in the background while you're doing something else. It's a show
to have on in the background as you write a comic book about it, perhaps.
It's a good show, and a lot of procedurals are like this, honestly. But they're good shows to kind of just have on that you can like drop in and drop out of.
Mm-hmm. And to get back into it, what ends up happening is they're almost opposed to each other at first, but Holy Man is like, hey, we need to do something here. We need to see if he's like possessed or whatever. And she's seeing a therapist at this time, right?
Yeah.
She's
The
a
therapist.
working woman. She's got the money.
The therapist is played by the guy who had the Ghostbusters committed in the second Ghostbusters movie. He was like the mayor's assistant.
What a pull. What a name pull. He's in everything, but he's one of those side names where I never remember his. What the fuck is his
I don't remember his name, but I recognized him right away. And like, people, Ghostbusters 2 is a 35-year-old movie. And I still recognize the dude. I was like, oh, it's the mayor's like assistant from Ghostbusters 2.
He's in a ton of stuff. He's always like the supporting cast.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the therapist, and we find out that she skeptic lady, she is does she have dreams before? Yeah, she starts having dreams before.
She has dreams after.
After?
So after the defense makes the it's the devil plea. Mike Coulter, as you mentioned, this is where we're introduced to like Luke Cage. She has to go back and reassess him to find out about like whether the demonic possession is kind of on the up and up, because Luke Cage is like, hey, I work for the church. We would just like you to assess. She goes in. He starts like, he goes like all, when she draws a cross.
Oh no, she Holy Man gives her a cross, and he's like, take this with you just in case.
But on the desk,
she presents it.
But on the desk, she also like draws a cross like in the dust on the desk, and she's like, what does this mean to you? And then she starts.
And I'm like, that's a plus symbol, baby.
That's exactly what I thought too.
She does. It's not long on one end.
No.
It's just like a plus symbol, and I'm like,
addition.
I may only have grade 10 math, but I'm pretty sure that is how you do pluses.
What does this mean to you? It means addition, lady.
Yeah.
What else? What more do you want?
And this is a lesser than sign. You can tell because the alligator is eating the bigger number. Does he go bananas when he sees it, or
no? He goes bananas when she starts singing "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want." Blah 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 blah.
Right.
The Lord's Prayer. That's what it's called. She starts like speaking the Lord's Prayer because Mike Coulter had told her. He's like, "Do me a favor." When he gave her the cross, he's like, "Also make sure you know the Lord's Prayer." So when she starts saying that, he flips out and like jumps and attacks her and starts like yelling in Latin.
Yeah.
So then afterward, she's all frazzled, gets out. She goes to the prosecution, and the prosecution is like, hey, we need you in court to testify again, which I didn't realize that was really a thing in trials. It's like, why would you have your like forensic psychologist
be on the witness stand?
Why would you have why would you call them to the witness stand like multiple times?
They would just, if anything, they wouldn't even be in the courtroom. They'd give their assessment, and that's...
Well, I could see them testifying, but it's like, okay, so she like examined him. They brought her in to testify her findings, and then she went and examined him again, and now they want her to testify again.
But then she's like, I can't confirm my original testimony because of what I'd like. This is later. Right.
And the prosecutor is like, listen, lady, here's all those hundos. Look, think about all those hundos that I was slipping you.
Feel it against your face. Go on. Feel those hundos.
Yeah. I just as I giveth, I taketh away.
And she's like, wait, no, you pay me to get to the truth. And he's like, oh, sweetie.
Never let the
I
truth
pay
get in
you
the
to
way of a
win.
good story.
He doesn't say that, but that
No.
is a good quote. He's like, lady, no, we hire you so that we can win. And now we're not hiring you anymore. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
And she's like, well, you can't fire me because I quit.
And then
She
walks
doesn't say
away.
that, but
No. But well, wouldn't you know it? Holy Man must have been around because he shows up at her.
well, and I think from here is when she goes to meet the therapist, and then we find out that she has like, she goes to meet the therapist. We find out she has like some like baggage with her, like, I'm not sure what their deal is, but like her husband's never around. He's off like guiding people up Mount Everest, but
His
it's,
job is a professional like mountain climber guide.
yeah, and it also seems like they're estrained too on
Well,
top of that.
I pieced it together because later on he comes. So when she, good storytelling, by the way, show, don't tell. Holy Man is walking through her office, which is outside of her house, and they live underneath like the trolley. So like a train is like, or something is like always going up by above the house.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you used to be a mountain climber. And he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Big seven, or the big seven or whatever. I guess there's like 7 mountain peaks that professional like mountain climbers like to reach the summit of. I didn't know this at the time, but I'm sure it's a thing. And he's like, why'd you stop? And she's all like, oh, you know about that? Well, kids and stuff. I got the opinion that her husband just kept going. He's like, you cool with 4 kids at home alone? Okay, well, I'm gonna go make some money like on the other. And it's just like, yeah, maybe you should be around, especially when this dude shows up.
Yeah, I know. If there's any dude, like, you should feel intimidated about your wife hanging out with.
He's just a very kind, handsome, jacked boss that I completely respect. Yeah, nothing ever would happen in that situation.
Yeah.
And he's like, tell you what, I'm a believer. Then I saw your face. And now I'm a believer. I screwed up the joke there. Anyways, he hires her because it's like, hey, I need like the yin yang thing. I need you to find scientific reasons to debunk this because I'm an assessor. So I can like pay you, Pete, like per case or whatever to come and try to prove that this is or isn't demonic possession.
And
so,
he's like, look, lady, the years start coming and they don't start coming. Back to the rules, and I hit the ground running.
Back to the rules, and I hit the ground running. It didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb. And so she's like, fuck, you got a good point.
she's like, wait, have you met my husband?
And he's like, oh, you're still married. Where is he? It's just like, oh, away for another 6 weeks. 6 weeks, you say? It's a long
Don't worry.
time. Don't
worry, baby. You'll be calling me daddy in no time.
And he's not a pervert, by the way.
No, he's not. Yeah.
And so she gets on the case, and much to the prosecution's chagrin, they're like, oh, this fucking bitch. He's just like, what are you doing? You can't do this. This is like a conflict of blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, well, no, I'm like freelance. I'm not helping the defense. I'm just an assessor with like this guy. And so it's like, okay, well, we're going to hire Dr. Evil. Is this the episode where like evil Dr. Demon Man is?
Yep. Yeah, he becomes the prosecutor's new star psychoanalyst witness.
And wouldn't you know, he's gonna give the prosecution what they want, but there's some history they don't reveal the entirety of between Holy Man and him.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts like shit talking them and being like, oh, this, you can't get rid of me, blah blah blah, or whatever. And he says something that pisses him off, and Preacher Man just like fucking starts throwing left hooks. Pulls his jersey over his head and starts feeding him uppercuts. He actually punches this guy in like the court.
He does punch him, yeah. And the guy kind of just laughs, and he's like,
it reminds me of Heath Ledger, like falling after being hit by Batman. You have nothing.
So he falls back and like at like the top of this like flight of stairs. Good thing he didn't fall, because Luke Cage could have inadvertently killed the guy. But he's just kind of laughing
that he didn't fall.
He's just kind of laughing, and is like, "Oh, what happened to like a vow of nonviolence?" He's like, "Did Jesus teach you that one?" Or something along those lines.
I hate this guy, but man, is his writing fucking sharp.
I actually I quite like him. Like
No, but what I mean is I like him as like a character. Like I hate him as a person, but as a character, he's great on the show.
He's a really good antagonist, yeah.
Yeah. And then we find out the next time she goes to assess, now she's working for the other side, right? Trying to see if he's possessed. This time his hands are in serial killer guy's hands are in cuffs, and he's cuffed to like the table. And she goes in, and he's just this time both of them go in to interview him. Before, she just went in alone, but now they're working together. So
yeah. Now this time, her and Luke Cage go to.
Now the B plot is Skeptic Lady's having some dreams.
Yeah. Also, she's got a lot of student loan debt that gets mentioned a lot in the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's having dreams about her dream her sleep paralysis demon, who's a little bit cheeky.
Yeah, he's kind of a snarky, like British demon who's like all like black. He's like charred black, like he's been burned to death. His name's George.
His name's just George. Doesn't sound like a demon. And Stay in the Shadows, it fully shows him, and he talks a lot.
He does. Yeah.
Not how I pictured like demons at all. And she's convinced that she's having like vivid dreams because of the nature of what's going on. And she reveals these dreams to her therapist that it shows her seeing every now and then, on and off.
I actually find this demon George kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's like, oh, it's not real. And he's like, oh, I'm not real. I guess I'll have to leave you a present. And he like goes into the corner and like pisses on the floor. And I'm like, George, no. Demons don't piss on the floor.
I have to wake up. Not yet, Kristen.
Kristen.
Keep your eyes closed for a few more minutes.
And then he like goes under the blankets and like comments on a scar.
A cesarean scar, yeah.
Yeah, and like her underwear, and then like takes her underwear off or something like that. Are you
wearing your sexy panties for your attractive new boss, Kristen?
And then later on, he gets on top of her and she's paralyzed, right? And he's like, we're going to play a game. I'm going to cut off your finger whenever you lie. And you just say yes or no. And he gives her hypotheticals.
We forgot to mention one thing that she does with the guy who's on trial for murder is she's like, oh, I'm going to ask you a series of 567 yes or no questions. which I'm like, that seems oddly specific. But and so the George, the sleep demon, does the same thing with her. He's like, now, Kristen, I'm going to ask you 567 yes or no questions.
But they're like a little different. They start off like, I like reading mechanics magazines. You have to play, Kristen, because if you don't, and he like slices down her hand.
I have violent diarrhea at least once a month.
No. I like reading mechanical magazines. No.
I was flirting with my new boss earlier. And she's like, no. And he's like, wrong answer, Kristen. And then cuts her finger off. It's quite graphic, actually. I was surprised.
Yeah. And she's like, it's not real. It's not real. And he's like, oh, but the pain is real, isn't it, Kristen? I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's sadistic, obviously, but I don't know, he's kind of fun. He's kind of a fun villain.
He's just a little cheeky demon. And then when they go to assess in the real world, when they go to assess this guy, and this is what I like about these episodes, the serial killer guy who's like possessed, right? He starts speaking in like a different voice and starts like talking about like demons and how it's just like, there's one visiting her. Say hello to George for me. And saying all these private things that he shouldn't know. And she gets freaked out and like backs out of the room.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, how did he know? There's no way he could have known.
And I like this on her drive home. She's like trying to piece together logically. There's no way anyone could have known that.
But her shrink.
One way.
Yeah, she goes to see her shrink and she's like, who did you tell? And he's like, God, no one. Like, come on. I wouldn't tell anyone that. The fuck? So then she goes to like look at her file and her file's missing. Like her file's empty. Everything that was in it has been stolen.
Oh, man. And she's a fucking lawyer.
And
so you can see this guy's eyes light up, her therapist's eyes, who are like, ooh, and it was like, who was here yesterday? Oh, like I saw a guy, but he didn't mention his name, and he was like looking for like he was like potential new client, and he was in my waiting room, but then he was
like a drop in, but then he left before we could get his information. And she figures
like
she's
brown
like,
hair, like glasses, yeah. And she finds out it's Townsend.
Yeah,
Dr. Evil.
Well, yeah, because she finds that out. That's someone matching that guy's description. And in like a nice little bit of editing, as soon as like her shrink like describes the guy to him, we cut away to that guy like walking like down the steps of the courthouse.
That was pretty good.
It's subtle, but it's like it's good editing right there. It's good visual storytelling there.
Mm-hmm. And when she ends up going and confronting him, and they have their first like one-on-one, holy shit, fuck this guy. Fuck him so fucking hard. What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He is fucking evil.
Again,
like,
good villain though.
It's the show, but like not like a demon, just like what is his drive? Or maybe he is a demon. I don't know. I'm going to keep watching. And
Luke Cage mentions that some people, I can't remember what the word he uses.
He said that Master Bruce, some people just want to watch the world burn.
I think he said some people are like conduits or something.
He said some people are conduits of evil.
And basically
she said psychopaths.
Their drive in life is to influence others to be evil.
People that might not have committed any evil to do so.
Also, while all of this was going on, there's they go to the killer man's like house and meet with his wife.
Right.
And his wife was like, "Oh, I found him for a couple nights in a row, like sleepwalking, and he was just standing in front of the fridge. And then I heard like demons whispering, and she's like, I even recorded it." And then like the tech expert skeptic man figures out that the sound, the evil like demonic sound that she recorded, was actually just their dishwasher backed up.
And their dish did it sound like this? And he like puts water through the pipes, and it's like,
yeah. It's Yeah, the show has an explanation for everything. And overall,
except when it kind of it edges, it goes back and forth. I like that.
What I like about this show is like, I feel like the show itself wants to believe, but
yes,
I feel like the show itself and these characters, they want to believe that something supernatural is going on here, but they're smart and rational enough people that they figure out what the actual logical explanation is for all of this stuff, and I really like that. Kind of gives me X-Files vibes.
In that, exactly, like it's really interesting that it will show both kind of sides, right? But I hate, man, growing up, there were so many people that were like, "Oh, I'm not like spiritual or faithful or religious because I believe in science." And I'm like, they're religious scientists.
Yeah, they're
like Islamic and Jewish and like Christian and everything else, like doctors, right? Like they're not mutually exclusive.
They're not, and they can coexist. But to be fair, there's also a lot of the inverse of that as well, which is a ton of like religious people who are anti-science. And
unfortunately,
we are in always perplexed me, because I'm like, why?
I lump that in with anti-intellectualism. The anti-intellectualism movement. Like, yeehaw, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Who even knows how a 6-cylinder engine works?
Yeah, and like, not to get too far deep into a rabbit hole about it, but like, I've never seen why science and religion necessarily have to contradict one another. Especially if you look at like religious texts as being purely like metaphorical, which is, I think, what they are.
If you look at religious things as faith rather than, or a spirituality rather than like laws of how things are done.
Evolution ain't real, creation's real. It's like, well, what if evolution is just the mechanism of creation? Well, why not? Why do those things have to contradict one another? Never understood that.
No, aliens at the beginning of what was it? Alien Prometheus. There we go. Aliens came and a naked guy drank black goo and go in water and make evolution.
Yeah. So and the aliens send. It implies Jesus is one of these aliens at one point in the movie.
I remember that too. and all of the ancient
the creators are just pissed off because humans killed Jesus and he was one of them. So that's why they created the aliens.
You guys killed Jesus.
He was a homie, man.
He was a homie.
Here,
treated everyone equally.
Have some xenomorphs. Fuckers.
As a treat. You only need one. Just have one or two. Have a couple.
Yeah.
Fuck. So the xenomorph bursts out of the serial killer's chest. And the Ripley equivalent, which is Skeptic Lady, burns him with a flamethrower.
So there's one thing, and I haven't done any research on this, but there's one thing, conceit in her, and this is how she kind of overcomes her like sleep paralysis thing, is she tapes a sign to her ceiling saying, "Can you read this?" Now, I've heard this before in movies and TV that, oh, you can't read while you're dreaming. I absolutely have read things while I've been dreaming, so I don't know where that comes from.
I've never heard of that before, ever. But watching this with my partner, she was like, oh, I don't know if that's true, but I can't recall reading anything while I'm reading.
I definitely remember reading in dreams. And
I've seen signs when I've been dreaming.
This has been the first time I ever heard of this was an episode of Batman the Animated Series where Batman figures out.
You've heard of this before?
Yeah, where there's an episode of Batman the Animated Series, I think it's in the first season, where Batman figures out that he's dreaming because he picks up a newspaper and all the text is like garbled.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. So yeah, she put on her ceiling before she went to bed. She's got kids, right? So she has this huge piece of construction paper, and she writes, what was it? Can you read this?
Can you read this? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all like woo, like gobbledygooky stuff or whatever. And she starts laughing as she's being tortured by the demon, and she's like, "Haha, this is a dream. I knew you weren't real, stupid Georgie."
He's like, "Well, even if this is a dream, Kristen, this is still going to hurt." And then he stabs her in the chest and she wakes up.
His dick. This is still going to hurt. And she wakes up and, but then she's like relieved or whatever. Yeah.
So how they end up catching the guy is because they figure out, okay, so they know that.
What a weird stretch.
That science man stole the notes, fed them. Dr. Evil fed them to this guy because she sees Dr. Townsend's name in the prison, like, visitor's logbook.
And she did this just to torment, like, them and make it seem like, because he wants evil people to get away with it and innocent people to go to prison. Yeah.
So yeah, she figures out all this out and figures out that Killer Man isn't actually possessed and that he's just been fed all this info. But they do some like investigation and like figure out that he was like emailing with Dr. Townsend.
Basically, Dr. Townsend found him on 4chan.
Yeah. And they've been emailing each other with his wife's email account.
On her computer. Because the people checked like his work computer and stuff, and they were like, it's clean. I'm like, wouldn't they check every device in the house? Here's the thing about this show. Also, if you think about it a little bit too much, sometimes it doesn't make sense.
No, this plot conceit like doesn't pass the smell test for me at all. It's like,
I'm okay with it. But if you think about it a little bit too much, like, how did Townsend randomly like slip this dude like her entire like therapy history?
Well, because he went to visit him in prison after stealing the therapy notes, and he just fed him the info.
So maybe didn't give him the notes physically. Anyways, in future episodes, this motherfucker brings up her like past a lot because he has her entire history. Of therapy notes. What a fucking diabolical piece of shit.
And somehow like his wife never noticed like all of these weird emails that her husband was exchanging with this like doctor man,
goading him into being like, oh yeah, kill, kill. Do it. But
say your name is Roy.
They somehow, oh right, the demon's name is like Roy. They somehow know that it's Dr. Townsend, Dr. Evil, but not enough to tie him to the murders and convict, like, to arrest him. So I was like, well, which is it? It is him or it isn't. It's just a way of tying him into the plot more.
Totally.
It's hilarious that a doctor is on 4chan being like, ooh, I can make this guy evil. I'll find his email address.
I will backtrace his IP.
Doesn't matter how many proxies he hides behind. I'm evil hacker man.
I am evil scientist. Yeah, the way this show falls into that, and honestly, I was kind of surprised because you don't see it much anymore. You saw it a lot in the 90s and 2000s of media, like very comedically, like either simplifying or just getting computer shit wrong. So I was kind of surprised to see it in this show. I was like, oh.
I'm surprised this guy didn't delete his browsing history. Clear as cookies. Delete his inbox.
This episode's from 2019. Incognito mode existed.
Yeah. Use 4chan, man.
Also, guess what? You don't need to use your wife's email address. You can just make a dummy email address.
Well, clearly this guy's also, what a weird wraparound. Oh, he used his wife's computer.
Yeah.
And the whole reason the wife's letting them check the computer and doing all of this is because she wants him to get off she wants him to be possessed. Because he's been acting strange and leading up to it, but he's been like playing her too, so that she's like she's part of it.
So you
can tell that it's not a demon because very early on it's like, oh, I like hearing women scream, and the serial killer dude is like, no. Like he hesitates and his mouth kind of goes, and then like it cuts to like a new scene.
He just gets like
a normal person
boner.
Doesn't hesitate. A normal person doesn't like bang the table with their dick at the mere mention. The mere mention of like a lady screaming.
So they interrogate him one more time, and this is the gotcha moment where they go over where they basically they explain,
they throw the papers on the
they explain the mystery to the audience by way of explaining it to him and being like, gotcha.
Instead of committing to the bit, he's like, you cheating son of a bitch.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll kill you.
Get them out of here. I don't want to talk to them anymore. And
this is the last they see of Townsend, because he appears in someone's dreams, or is that the next episode?
It's the next episode
where he's praying, and
he shows up in Mike Coulter's dreams,
right?
And then Mike Coulter like drinks some shroom tea to have a vision quest with God.
Oh, one of the things in episode 1, I think it's episode 1, is he's like, ask him about the second time he saw God.
Oh, yeah, right.
Kristen, ask him about the second time he saw God.
He's like, whether you like it or not, Kristen, you're part of this now. And she's like, part of what? She's like, we see you. She's like, who? He's like, the 60.
The 60. So every episode ends with, okay, there's a real reason for this, but because she has like Roy is like a reoccurring thing until she finds out like what it's from. And oh man, Townsend.
And so at the end of the episode,
good actor that plays such an evil piece of shit.
The end of the episode, they're in her like office, like guest house type thing, drinking like canned mojitos.
Oh, she has. What a Christian thing to, because she's like kind of not really like ex-Catholic or whatever, right? And even the tech guy, Ben, she tosses him across the room because they cracked the case wide open, but also saved the church some money because they don't need to come and try to exorcise this guy.
I did laugh because tech guy is like mojitos. Why would we drink these? And she's like, because they're fast. Cracks one open. I'm like, yeah, I get that.
I actually like him. He doesn't have a lot to go. His character isn't shown a lot in the first episode, but in the next few, I actually quite like him.
I like everyone in this show.
It's rare for me to actually like everyone, but like the Holy Trinity, man, Tech Man, Holy Man, and Skeptic Lady. I like them. I like them a lot.
And Townsend is a great villain. George is a really fun demon. I hope we see more of George. Oh, the reason why she's seeing the sleep demon now, the tech guy, is like, it's probably power of suggestion. Now that you've been introduced to the idea that there might be demons out there.
And I think the therapist even kind of says, oh, maybe you watched, which you find out in the next few episodes, maybe you watched a movie or a show with your kids that had a demon. Maybe you're working too hard with this like church assessor to, and it's just like on your mind. So, George, huh?
Watch out for that tree.
George of the hell. Watch out for that tree. He's gonna pee on ye. I don't know. He pisses in the corner of the room. Or is it because she left the window open and it rained? And she filled in the gaps while she was dreaming by imagining a demon pissing there. Or did the demon open the window to represent him peeing?
Could be.
And was the knife her desire to get penetrated by a black cat?
Oh, so yeah, we both did tune in next time for this show already.
We already have a rare. Is that a first?
That
it
is
only
a
took
first.
us 98 episodes, but we both continued watching this before recording.
Before we even got to recording. So this show's fun. I'm going to keep up with it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that was episode 98 of the Lazor Comb podcast. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB. We're starting at the $5 tier. You get our bonus, mostly weekly. Sometimes we miss a week, like last week. Patreon exclusive podcast, the Super Lazor Comb Patreon Super Show. The $10 tier, you get to pick a show for us to review a random episode of on this very podcast. Commentary tracks and a whole bunch of other things. So if you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lazorcomb. If you want to interact with us, join the Discord, link in the description as always. If you want to buy a Lazor Comb t-shirt, go to the TeePublic store. That is also in the description as well, as always.
There's some bangers.
We'll be back next week with one more Shocktober episode where we're finally going to be talking about The Crow, Stairway to Heaven.
Aw, shit.
A show that I watched 25 years ago and liked at the time.
And if we've learned anything from 98 episodes of the Lazor Comb podcast, it's that nostalgia never lies.
Never.
We always love everything that we liked from 25 years ago.
The member berries are never sour.
They're never sour and they never go bad.
So to figure out what episode we're going to be watching of that, I'm going to hit screen share as always.
You know what helped? We saw episode 1 of this. Or maybe that did. I don't know.
All right. Screen share. It might have helped. Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like I could have watched any episode and picked it up.
Yeah, I mean, it is largely it's serialized, but it's also kind of episodic. I feel like
I would have been intrigued by any one given episode, is what I mean. Like X-Files in that sense.
So, how many episodes did The Crow Stairway to Heaven have? It had 22.
Only 22?
Yeah, it only lasted one season. And this was at a time when TV shows had like 20 plus episodes per season. So, one random number between 1 and 22, and well, it can't rain all the time. 15. What episode is that? Birds of a Feather. Funny. After being acquitted of Shelley's murder, Eric meets Dr. Hannah Talon Foster, a new crow who was killed alongside her daughter, Rebecca.
Wait. After being acquitted, Eric meets Hannah, a new crow who was... Oh.
Intriguing.
A new crow? They're more one crow? They're more one undead crow man? Now crow woman?
I mean, there were a lot.
First Cro-Magnon, then there was Crowman. Now there's Crow Woman.
And next time we'll have Crowbar.
Oh,
Crowbar.
They meet at a crowbar.
I was going to say Crowbar, a former professional wrestler who who died in the ring after being forced
lowered from the rafters and
After being forced to perform a deadly wrestling maneuver by his corrupt wrestling promoter.
He was hit with a real crowbar.
Yeah, there we go. So he was murdered.
Oh shit!
He was murdered in the ring by someone actually doing a real Stone Cold Stunner on him and breaking his neck.
A real. Holy shit! Add this to the Lazor Comb wiki.
Oh, and the
definitely exists.
Oh, and the guy's wife knows what was up, and she is going to go to the police about the wrestling promoter who had this arranged, so he has her killed too. And so that's why Crowbar comes back.
I like it. It writes itself. Crowbar comes back, and in an unexpected show, because it's like the lights dim, and then like the people working on like the set are like, what the fuck? Like, we're not supposed to be introducing anybody. Fix the lights. What's going on? And then and the lights like have the sparks come out of them or whatever, and Crowbar comes out, and they're like, wait a second. And like the producer or whatever is like, you're supposed to be dead.
And I say I'm dead and I move.
Oh shit. Or would he come out of like a casket? Or would he like break through? I'm thinking about this too much. Clearly.
He would come through the crowd.
Yeah?
Yeah, he would just walk. He would just walk out through the crowd, like at a very like hurried, like determined pace. And would just like get into the ring and like stab someone who's stunned now.
Who's stunned now? And then when it shows security run out, the lights are all cut and they flicker, and then they turn back on, and he's like gone.
He's gone.
Oh my God, where'd he go? Oh my God, the crowbar. Wait, who's that? And like the spotlights move, and he's like in the rafters, like retreating, like Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's a slow motion shot, and then that Nirvana song is playing.
Well, we'll be back next week. Not with that, unfortunately.
I'm sure it's just as good.
And until then, I have been Siege Mode, one of your hosts.
And I'm Neocal, your other host.
Thanks for listening. We'll evil all up inside you next time.
We'll jingle all the way, and evil. I don't know. It's happy October, people. Don't forget to be good and not evil.
Bye-bye.